Another hot sunny day in Belfast, wouldn't you believe? So I thought I would just take a quick dive into um, what we did in our last Keiko in terms of the practice menu. So one of the things I like to do in my training sessions when I lead them is have one central theme that everybody can focus on and take through their Kihon, their fundamental practice, and ramp it up through like uchikomi, kakari keiko, kirikashi, all these things, and try and take that through into the chikeiko. It's easy for them to remember, and they just got to stick with the one thing, and I find I have good success with that. On this occasion, I really wanted to talk about taking the center line. So this principle of kind of stepping in, taking the center, not giving your opponent any kind of breathing room, keeping the pressure on for as long as possible before committing to the waza. And I really just wanted to talk about the physical manifestation of that, because this is quite like an early stage group of people, all kind of fourth, fifth kyu, second kyu, that kind of thing. I had one Nidan with me to help me out for motodachi, and that's what we worked on. So I think it's a really underestimated thing. A lot of times when I do kakari keiko with people, they're too quick to try to hit the shinai out the way using harai or uchi otoshi, and very seldom do they commit to the center line and simply try to overwhelm the opponent. And I think this is a quality you need in your kendo. Your opponent needs to be able to take your threat, your credibility to produce a threat seriously. If you can do that, then you can start to look at this idea of setting traps and trying to build ojiwaza situations later on in your kendo. And you only really need to worry about that really from like sandan, yodan. So I think it's a really important quality to try to build into your kendo through that ikkyu, shodan, nidan kind of progression. Obviously nidan with more fluency and balance, but the same idea. So let's get into the training menu and we'll talk about how we did that. So we first worked as a group of 6 all together. What we did was work on Seme Ashi, so stepping forward, keeping your kensen down. And I wanted them to understand the small cut, how it fits in within practicing a large cut. So the idea was to step in, push your right foot forward, keep the kensen, the tip of the shinai down, in Shodan as long as possible, drive forward, and then cut in a timing of 1. So rather than up, stop, cut, it was drive forward and cut in 1 motion. So we did that with men cuts, we did that with Kote cuts, and then we did the smaller versions of those, and I tried to get them to start focusing on trying to resist the temptation to pull back on the shinai, but instead push forward and extend forward and cut. Very challenging for that group, but it's stuff that's definitely right for them to start looking at now. And I'm keen that people, as soon as they get into armor, they start getting a look at small cuts reasonably soon. I don't think it's right to kind of hide that from them, even if it's not maybe their main bread and butter of their practice yet, because they're still really working on the basics. But the fact is, a small version of a men cut or kote is a basic, so then you start working on it for practical purposes. In any case, that's what we started with. Then I wanted them to kind of move on and try to apply that theory within their practice of kirikashi, because what I want to do is for them to know to try to do that every time they do kirikashi. So that's the message I imparted on them, is every time you take that first cut, that middle cut, and that final shomen cut, you should be aiming to step in with this kind of pressure, this continuous pressure, and then lift at the last second and cut in the timing of 1. Very important for your kirikashi. So we worked on that. Towards the back end of the session, I really wanted to fire them up and push them a bit. We took very few breaks. This was a group who really wanted to push on, and so that's what we did. So we kept the intensity up as much as we could and kept the discussion and explanation as short as I could. So the back end of the session was wanted to work on a bit of hikiwaza. So they did the stepping in, keeping the shinai down, small men cut, taitari, step back, hikikote, hikimen, men, taitari, hikikote, men, taitari, hikido. If they were a certain level, then it was skimune, skidare, men. Just to get them really used to stepping in close and keeping this form, this posture. A lot of people, when they step in close, they pull back on the shinai, and it's a very bad habit. You should really try to step into your hands. So if you cut the men in kirikaishi and you're about to taitari, you should really step your body into your hands, if anything, rather than cut and pull back and then close the distance. So really wanted to work on that. And then lastly we did some oikomi keiko. As I said, I wanted to keep the intensity up and keep them fired up. So just continuous footwork drills up and down the dojo. Just men, 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 kote men, kote men, kote men. Variations on that. And then we just wrapped that up with a bit of jikeiko. And that was it. That was the session. It was pretty focused. Just stuck with the one major theme. Which was, as I said, this kind of Seme Ashi into the step and cutting in the timing of one. Those were the main things, and like I said, not pulling back on the shinai for the smaller cuts. So yeah, let me know what you've been practicing in the dojo lately, and I'd be interested to hear that in the comments. And until next time, take care.